Did you know that Ice Queendom isn't just a RWBY spin-off, but it's also an Attack on Titan spin-off? Because I didn't, and if you want to find out how, make sure you watch the rest of this review. But with that being said, I will say spoiler warning for those who have not seen episode 7 of Ice Queendom. I won't be showing the episode or any clips from it in this video, simply images of the episode and analyzing the events that take place. I'll leave links in the description below so you guys can go to either Rooster Teeth First or Crunchyroll, watch the series there, which I highly recommend doing as of this episode, and support this amazing series. Now, the episode starts off as Team RWBY and Jaune have entered the dream. At first, we only see Team RWBY, and they notice that the tree that Yang punched at the beginning of episode 5, when she first entered the dream, is still destroyed, meaning that the acts that they take in the dream carry over to the next time they jump into it. So they do have an effect on the outcome of the dream itself, proving that Yang's plan is indeed possible, so they can change the dream. But then they notice that Jaune isn't actually there, and wonder where he is, but he's actually beneath them, buried in the snow. His arm reaches up to grab RWBY, asking for help, and as they pull him out, we see that his appearance is a little bit different than we had previously seen his alter form in the dream. Now he has a cape, and also what I would only imagine to be like the holy sword Durandal or Excalibur, or some massive, elegant sword that he's carrying on his back, which obviously is going to be significant at some point in the future, but Blake and the rest of Team RWBY kind of theorized that, oh, this must be symbolic of what Weiss thinks of Jaune, that he can't handle his weapon. But that's absolutely not the case, because he still has his other sword and shield. We see him use it later in this episode, so this sword is something completely different. And the first thing Jaune says about it is that it's incredibly heavy, so much so that he can barely lift it and use it in combat, which to me implies that the sword isn't meant for him. It's meant for someone else, but I'll touch on that a bit later. It's still curious as to why Jaune actually entered the dream with it, because this is, you know, not really fitting with how Jaune would appear in Weiss's memory and what Weiss actually thinks of Jaune, because she really has no opinion of him at this point. At the end of Volume 1, Jaune really didn't make that much of an impression on Weiss other than just being a nuisance, another person that was just hitting on her. She really didn't start thinking of him in a positive light until partway through Volume 2, when Jaune told Neptune to go talk to Weiss at the dance. He encouraged Neptune to go and make her happy, something that got Weiss to start seeing Jaune in a more positive light. But at this point in the RWBY series, not really at all. So this is very curious. It's going to be relevant later on, and we'll see what ends up happening. And now, I know a lot of people aren't really happy that Jaune is kind of stepping more into the limelight of Ice Queendom, that obviously with this massive elegant sword he's going to have a more prominent role to play. Team RWBY, of course, is still going to be the central focus of this, with it being Weiss's dream and the rest of her friends, Team RWBY, going to be there to rescue her, but Jaune is going to play a more significant role. And I get that some people are upset by that. Personally, it is a bit confusing, but I'll withhold my judgment until Ice Queendom is over. However, in this episode, it is completely overshadowed by something else that we get that, you know, I really didn't expect. We see small Weiss when she was a child, when she was happy. Look at this face. Look at it. She is adorable, she is precious, she needs to be protected at all costs, and because of little Weiss's introduction, Ice Queendom, you know, best anime of the season, perhaps? I'll cast my vote for that, because this Weiss is adorable and the true queen of Ice Queendom. But we'll see more of her a bit later. In the meantime, Team RWBY and Jaune venture further into the dream. RWBY riding her snowboard, Blake and Yang on Bumblebee, and Jaune tobogganing on his shield. Again, showing that he still has his other weapon, but the giant sword still on his back. They arrive at the confusing road sign, and Jaune, just the same as everyone else, can't really make heads or tails of it. But their purpose now is to change the dream, so they all prepare to save the train from the White Fang. And they do so. They all jump into action and mercilessly take out all of the White Fang, like killing each and every one of them. Jaune is the last of them to jump into action because he's weighed down by this massive sword, but he literally jumps off the cliff towards the train, and the sword slams itself into the train and gets stuck. But when it does so, there is a flash of golden light. At first glance, I thought this might have been Jaune's power, you know, his aura amp activating, but that would be completely out of canon because he doesn't activate his semblance till the end of Volume 5. This seems to be an inherent power of the sword itself. No one of Team RWBY or Jaune really comment on that, and the sword stays stuck in the train for the rest of the episode, but it is absolutely adding to the sword's significance. This sword is going to be brought up later on, and I think I have an idea how it's going to become relevant. For now, though, RWBY, Blake, and Yang are able to take out all of the White Fang that is attacking the train. Jaune really isn't able to do anything other than get his sword stuck, and he loses the cape that he had. It flies off in the wind. Other than that, though, everything goes pretty successfully, and they're able to save the train. It gets out of the valley, and the dream has now changed. As the train exits the valley, we see that confusing sign that was twisted and mangled start to untangle itself. The bottom half of it, the arrows untangle and seem to point downward. There are a couple notable things about this overall scene, and one of which is actually very dark. That's something that I think a number of people will probably miss. First and foremost, an interesting difference, the soldiers that were defending the train in the previous 2 jumps into the dream, they were black in color. But now the soldiers defending the train were white in color. Not exactly sure what that means, but the thing that I think a lot of people are going to miss, and the thing that's actually really dark about this fight against the White Fang, we see a number of the White Fang members be killed. RWBY takes out a couple of them, and whenever she does, they turn to dust like Grimm. But it's not the same when Blake kills them. We see Blake take out one of them close up, where we see a bullet from her weapon hit a White Fang member in the face. And there's blood. When RWBY takes them out, they're just monsters, they're just Grimm. This is representative of, you know, Weiss's view of them. They are the enemies of humanity, much like the Grimm. So when, you know, humanity takes them out, they just turn to dust like the Grimm. But when Blake takes them out, they are her own people. And therefore, they bleed. That, to me, I'm guessing that was intentional, and that is a very subtle thing to put in Ice Queendom, again adding to the brilliance of this series and the amount of symbolism and things that they are able to put into it, but that is very dark how they are symbolizing Blake killing her own people compared to how Weiss would view humans killing the White Fang, and that is, well, that is pretty dark. However, before we see more of Team RWBY, we see Weiss's reaction to the change in her dream. She enters the central chamber of her tower, just as she has done in the previous entries into her dream, and gets the report from Klein. However, this time, the train made it out of the valley. The White Fang has been defeated, and Weiss is surprised by this. She doesn't know how to react. Klein, of course, is happy that a train is finally arriving to the city, but Weiss needs to give the order to open the gates so the train doesn't crash into it, which, you know, would be kind of problematic for Team RWBY and Jaune, who are barreling towards it on that train. Jacques appears over Weiss's head, though, and pressures her, saying that she has a responsibility, adding to her kind of mental confusion at this point in time, not knowing what to do. But out on the train, all of Team RWBY and Jaune, well, I mean, kinda Jaune, pleads with Weiss to open the gate. RWBY pleads with Weiss, Jaune kind of just calls her Ice Queen, Yang just yells open up, but Blake is the one who says, please don't shut us out. And I'm guessing it's supposed to be in response to all of Weiss's friends asking to let them in, but it does really seem like Blake's words were the most important. And it seems that these words, the emotions of her friends, did reach Weiss as she has this moment of realization and opens the gates at the last moment, allowing the train to pass through. And not only just through the gates, but through most of the city. The town itself starts to shift and move out of the way. If you've seen Fairy Tail, it's much like the Gildarts shift, where the town parts and these train tracks go through, allowing the train to pass. Also very symbolic, the path through to Weiss's heart was there all along, it was just hidden beneath the surface. A nice little touch to add in. Ice Queendom has many of these throughout the series. And even more so than that, the tracks start to raise up, taking the train, Team RWBY and Jaune, past the inner wall, all the way to the central part of the city, where it seems like there's a fair or a carnival going on where the train station is located, pretty much right in front of the massive tower at the center. So it seems changing the dream was an excellent plan after all. They were able to get into the core of the city fairly easily. And so Yang's plan was a success. And now it's time for RWBY's to use Jaune as the cloaked member of the group where the nightmare won't attack him. But there is a slight issue with that at this point in time, because Weiss, as she's in her inner sanctum, watching all of this happen, she's not only surprised that Blake was defending the train, fought against the White Fang, but she recognizes Jaune. Again, Jaune isn't supposed to be that important of a person to Weiss at this point in the RWBY series, but since Weiss knows him by name, that means he's left definitely some impression on her. And she didn't really respond in a negative way, so I think that's kind of conflicting with what we know about Weiss. We'll see how it all plays out. Still, at this point, the image of Jacques Schnee looming over Weiss's head starts asking her if she is truly worthy to be a child of Schnee, forcing Weiss to go up to the Book of Winter and say that she will prove that she's the only one worthy of carrying on Big Nicholas's legacy. The only one worthy of carrying on her grandfather's company, which is still very relevant that Weiss is saying she's going to carry on her grandfather's legacy, nothing to say about Jacques, which I really like that they're adding in here. As the train comes to a stop in the central part of the city, the soldiers rejoice that a train has finally arrived, all of them saluting Big Nicholas. Team RWBY and Jaune hop off, however, and make a marker. Now, the light bulb over the door turns on immediately, meaning that they had already made another marker, probably right where they had arrived into the dream, or probably right in front of the sign where they were about to attack the train, so that they could, get back and forth. But here's the thing. They shouldn't need to make any markers. This is supposedly the last time they're going to be able to jump into the dream, or else Weiss will likely die. Probably a precaution that they're making these markers so that if they do get booted out again, and they do have a fourth chance, then they'll be able to use these to get back to the central part of the city. But I think there's actually another reason why this marker was created, and why they're going to actually need to get back to the outskirts of the dream at some point in the next episode, or maybe 2 episodes from now. And I'll touch on that a little bit later as well. For the moment, it's Jaune's time to shine, and he's feeling the effects of the nightmare already. He can barely breathe through his nose, he feels itchy, he's sneezing, and he's feeling cold. The allergy to the nightmare, thanks to his previous infection, is taking hold. But Team RWBY kind of sits back and still sends him out into the middle of the carnival where there are soldiers patrolling around, just letting Jaune handle it. And he does run into one of the soldiers, and it completely ignores him, seeing him as just another person infected by the nightmare, and completely passes him by. It's also worth it to note that the allergies Jaune is suffering within the dream seem to also be kind of affecting him in real life, as we see Team Juniper watching over Jaune and Team RWBY as they are in the dream. Ren, Nora, and Pyrrha are all giving Jaune support, cheering him on. Xion, however, is still asleep, not really needing to be awake for anything that's going on. It's mostly up to Team RWBY and Jaune, so Xion can just kick back and relax until he receives a phone call. Not being a nightmare hunter really isn't all bad, as I said before. And inside the dream, Jaune's walking around the carnival and stumbles upon Dopey Klein. He finds the Silly's jail and realizes that his teammates are inside of it. So he's able to convince Dopey Klein to let him in, since Dopey Klein was saying, wait, weren't you one of the Sillies? Weren't you a dummy inside of here? And after Jaune sees his teammates, he's like, hey, can you just open up? You said that I was supposed to be in there, right? And Dopey Klein is easily convinced, opens up, and Jaune does something very smart here. He puts his shield down to jam the door so Dopey Klein can't close. And now we get to see what's actually on the inside of the Silly's jail. It's kind of a paradise. We see that it's carnival themed. Maybe each Silly's jail is themed to whatever area of the town that it's in, but I think it's probably themed like this everywhere, in all of the Silly's jails, and perhaps all of them are connected. But that's not really relevant right now. There's sweets everywhere, and, it's like the confession stands at the carnivals, the place that, a child might like to go. And all of Team Juniper is there. Jaune realizing, as he's entering this place, that it feels very comfortable there. The rest of his team hands him the mittens, hat, and scarf that we've seen him wearing in previous episodes. He didn't actually arrive into the dream wearing this. And I get why this was written in, to show that his team is still supporting him even in the dream, and it's a way to counteract the negative effects of the allergy that he's feeling towards the nightmare, but it also doesn't fit for the fact that everyone else, Nora, Ren, Ruby, they all entered the dream with their alternate clothes on, with the winter clothing that would protect from the cold. Jaune, however, was given it by his teammates. It's a touching moment, but I don't think it necessarily fits with the idea that the characters entering the dream are supposed to kind of take on the form of their dream alters, as was the case with Ruby, Yang, and Blake. Jaune may be an exception because, well, he was previously afflicted by the nightmare, so there's something unique about him. So he wouldn't take the full appearance of his dream alter, but he still appeared with a cape and a sword looking much like Guts from Berserk, so there's definitely some things that will need to be explained later on, and I'm sure they will be. I have full confidence in the writers to do so. For now, though, the Silly's jail is obviously a safe space against the nightmare. With Jaune's allergies being relieved and feeling very warm and welcoming there, it is meant to be the safe place to the nightmare. The same thing that Xion and the rest of Team RWBY theorized it to be in previous episodes, that things were locked away to protect them, not necessarily to actually imprison them. They were to keep them away from the nightmare. These prisons, protected by Dopey Klein and Sleepy Klein, being the areas where Weiss's most cherished memories are. And I still hold that Team Juniper is there as a representation of her time at Beacon, not because Team Juniper is that important to her, because she really doesn't know any of them other than Pyrrha. But that's not the only thing that is protected within the Silly's jail. Pyrrha grabs Jaune's hand and takes him over to a tree, I guess, that's also reminiscent of the sign that we saw before, having those same arrows that are twisted and contorted around one another, this time all of the arrows saying stop, but in the center of this tree is another relic. This time it's yellow, which does indeed prove that there is likely 4 relics in this dream, one for each of the colors of Team RWBY. We've seen the white one, the red one, and the yellow one. There's likely a black one located somewhere else as well. And this is why I think they created the marker to go back to the outskirts of the dream. If we look at where each of the relics have been found thus far, not the one that was locked away in the glass coffin with the apple on it, signifying how Weiss has locked her heart away, or the nightmare has, but when we see the relic that Ruby found, it was lying in her bed, in the bunk bed, a place that was important to her, but along with it was the contorted and twisted sign, where we find the yellow relic, likely representative of Yang, but it wasn't found where Yang's altar was supposed to be in the dream, so, it does seem like the fragments of Weiss's heart are hidden in different areas, not necessarily representative of each team member, but we'll see how things play out in future episodes. The point being, the black relic, likely representative of Blake's part on Team RWBY, is probably going to be hidden at another place with one of these signs, like the one that we first see when we enter the dream. I think that there is a relic buried beneath that sign, because when the train was released from the valley, when they were able to escape, the sign itself twisted or uncoiled itself. The bottom half of it, the arrows started pointing seemingly downwards, meaning that it's probably saying, here's the relic, right here is what you want. So likely they're going to use the markers that they created, which would seemingly be pointless if this was their last journey into the dream. They will have a use by them going back, retrieving this other relic, because maybe the yellow one's going to get destroyed, they're not going to know how to use it, or something along those lines, and they're going to need to go get the one that symbolizes Blake. We already know that throughout this dream and throughout Ice Queendom, Weiss's focus on Blake being a Faunus is very central to the plot. So I think it would be fitting that the black chess piece and the white chess piece, the black and white of a chessboard, are the ones that are going to be significant, or most significant at that. I kind of did like the idea that it was only going to be a red and white one, symbolizing White Rose, the importance that RWBY had to Weiss, as well as, you know, being related to the Beacon initiation where there was only 2 of each relic. Still, I think this is going to make a lot of sense when Ice Queendom finally wraps up, or at least Weiss's dream, and we see how it comes to its conclusion. Getting back to this episode, though, the moment that Jaune removes the relic from the tree, all of those arrows on it that were once saying stop immediately point into the air and say go. And when they do, that is when we get cuteness overload. Multiple tiny Weisses start charging from the back of the Silly's jail, and they are all smiling, they're all happy, representative of Weiss's childhood memories, the desires that she had when she was a kid. All of them are saying, oh, I want to play, I want to be spoiled, I want to eat lots of sweets, and they, since, well, Jaune had blocked the entrance to the Silly's jail, and so Klein can't actually close, the Weisses burst out of the Silly's jail, overwhelming all of the soldiers and everyone outside trying to stop them. They are adorable little assassins. Grumpy Klein is there with a group of soldiers trying to stop them, but they immediately dodge out of the way of any attacks and start striking them with their Mirtanasters. It seems even Weiss, as a child, was a very skilled fencer, as she is able to land a hit on each of them, and as she does so, her childlike mentality is imprinted on them. So Grumpy Klein, each of the soldiers, and even the statues of Jacques start saying that they want to play, they want to have fun talking with their family, they want to be free, they want to be able to go outside. All of these different hopes and dreams that were held by Weiss as a child, that were locked away and protected in the Silly's jail, are now free to roam and wreak havoc on the city of Weiss's dream. It is adorable, and I already loved Ice Queendom before this point, but now, absolutely best anime of the season, no contest, just getting tiny Weiss, and so many of them, like it's literally cuteness overload, and I just love it so much. She needs to be protected at all costs, given all of the head pats in the world that she wants, showered with sweets. She's adorable, and is immediately became the best part of Ice Queendom for me. I loved that this was included. Team Juniper follows the tiny Weisses out of the Silly's jail and sees the chaos that they are causing. RWBY jumps in to greet them, and Jaune hands RWBY the relic, which kind of starts glowing in her hands, maybe signifying that it's now in the right hands, but Pyrrha, she looks almost shocked or concerned that Jaune handed over the relic, which also concerns me a little bit, because I don't know if the relic was meant to be Jaune's, because, again, that would not fit with how Weiss sees Jaune at this point in the RWBY series. Each of the relics is probably supposed to symbolize a member of Team RWBY, so I'm curious as to why Pyrrha seems a little bit shocked. RWBY then convinces both Ren and Nora to fight for freedom. Viva la Revolution, if you will. And both of them start talking. They are going to fight for freedom. They aren't able to talk freely in full sentences or anything like that, but they definitely agree to fight. Pyrrha, however, has not said a word just yet. We're only seeing her facial expressions. But the revolution is absolutely taking place as we see the kind of armies and military forces enter a central plaza. On one side, there are 50 tiny Weisses, and on the other, a battalion of Imperial soldiers. Which side would you choose if you were in this situation? Let me know down in the comments below. I think it's pretty obvious. If the revolution was this cute, I would absolutely support them with everything I had. But it's 50 of these tiny Weisses. I did count each and every one of them. We were given an overhead shot. There is 50 of them, along with Jaune, Ren, and Nora fighting against these Imperial soldiers. And we quickly see who is able to win. The Weisses, our little assassins, are able to take them all out, and this is when we see Jaune using his regular Crocea Mors, his actual weapon. So it absolutely does not fit that Jaune just had this extra massive, elegant sword on his back when he entered into the dream. There's something else with that. And here is where I'm going to explain what I think the sword is going to be used for. Because after the battle is over, Jaune's allergies seem to be overwhelming him a little bit, and Pyrrha runs over to him. She did not participate in the battle. She hands him a handkerchief and is being very supportive, being very nice, representing how Weiss views Pyrrha, how she is still supporting her leader, supporting Jaune, even though Weiss doesn't really think much of him. And Pyrrha is reflecting this. But Pyrrha did not take place in this battle. She has no weapons on her, whereas Ren and Nora have their weapons exactly as they are in the real world. And with Jaune's weapon looking exactly the same too, that means the only weapon that Weiss actually got wrong was Ruby's. The one that she's supposed to have more experience with, given that she's rooming with Ruby, fighting with Ruby, was in the initiation with her, and should know at least what end of her weapon the barrel points out of, but she doesn't, and yet she knows exactly how Team Juniper's weapons work. That really adds to how Weiss views Ruby's combat capabilities, but it's very notable that Pyrrha does not have her weapons, and she did not fight in this battle at all, which makes me think that this massive, elegant sword is meant for Pyrrha. That's the weapon that Pyrrha is going to wield, and is probably going to be the strongest fighter that we will see in this dream, because Weiss views Pyrrha very highly, puts her on a pedestal, the victor of multiple different tournaments, and the one that was supposed to be able to help Weiss get to the top of the class. Pyrrha is pretty much guaranteed to be overwhelmingly powerful in this dream, given how Weiss views her, and I think that that sword is going to be the key to that. It holds a lot of power in and of itself, so when Pyrrha gets it, she's going to become the untouchable girl and wipe the floor with all of the Imperial soldiers, or really anyone that stands in her path. At the same time that this is happening, though, we see Nightmare Weiss arrive in the city, taking out Grumpy Klein, who is dancing around with the childlike views of tiny Weiss. And it's not only Grumpy Klein that Weiss takes out, but she also threatens Whitley. As she's seeing the destruction that is being caused in her city, Whitley makes the comment that, well, looks like you can never hold up to your responsibilities, you can never be a true daughter of Schnee now, which really pisses Weiss off. She threatens Whitley with her blade and sends him flying away like the scaredy cat that he is. Or should I say, scaredy bat. Ha! I'm so funny, aren't I? Please subscribe. In the meantime, Team RWBY is elsewhere, seeing that all of the soldiers have been drawn to where Jaune is, to fight the valiant battle against the tiny Weisses, a battle that they are doomed to lose. But now Team RWBY has an open path to get to the central tower, so they make another marker and prepare to make their way. However, they are going to have some pretty major obstacles in their path. As Weiss is overlooking the city, seeing the destruction that is caused, things take a turn for the worse for the rebellion that is currently going on. Jaune and Pyrrha notice the chaos that all of the tiny Weisses are causing, but then something unexpected happens. They look up to see that one of the tiny Weisses isn't so tiny anymore. Instead, she is towering over them, still holding these childlike sentiments, saying that she wants to play, she wants to have friends. But, yeah, when a Titan is looking down on you, that doesn't really bode very well. And then Ren and Nora turn on Jaune and Pyrrha. Jaune grabs Pyrrha's hand and runs, but they are quickly surrounded by not only the soldiers, but also Ren and Nora, who have been completely taken over by the Nightmare, as well as a number of Titan Weisses. Things have certainly taken a turn for the worse, not only as the rebellion has now failed, with each of the soldiers turning on its leader, but for what this symbolizes. Not only are Ren and Nora now taken over by the Nightmare, but seemingly all of the Weisses, which symbolize Weiss's childhood memories. Everything that was protected in the Silly's jail has now been corrupted by the Nightmare. We know that the effects that outsiders have on the dream stays permanent. For the fact that when Yang punched that tree and it was destroyed, it stayed destroyed. So, presumably, this will absolutely be the last chance they have to save Weiss, because all of the things that she was now protecting are corrupted by the Nightmare. So this is probably going to be their last chance, as if they don't succeed this time, Weiss is probably going to be fully taken over by the nightmare and lose her life. Thing is, though, as Jaune and Pyrrha are about to be overwhelmed, a glyph appears in front of them and blasts everyone backwards. Not only the soldiers, but also Ren and Nora. And with the way that they're kind of lying on the ground, they don't seem to be in good shape. I really wonder if Weiss just killed them, because it was Weiss who used her glyphs from a long distance away to cause that massive shockwave. Weiss is absolutely more powerful in this dream, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the fight that will take place next episode. As Nightmare Weiss then opens the Book of Winter and raises her blade into the air, sending a beam of light into the sky. The purple sky is then covered by a swirling storm, and Weiss brings forth her ultimate weapon. You thought that Ice Queendom was similar to Attack on Titan just by having Titan Weisses? No, 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 no. Now we need the Colossal Titan. Because the tower in the center that is shaped like Nicholas Schnee, the rings that were surrounding it shatter and begin to form 6 massive arms, shaping it into a massive Titan weapon. And for scale, here's a picture of one of its fists as it tried to attack Team RWBY, who were just barely able to dodge out of the way. This thing is massive. Again, the Colossal Titan. The Colossal Nicholas Titan. We have Titan Weisses, the literal Big Nicholas, and, well, this is where the episode ends, as Weiss is saying that she's going to pass judgment on all of them. Well, next episode is certainly going to be exciting as we hopefully see this entire battle play out, but the question remains, how exactly are they going to be able to take out this Colossal Titan? I have a feeling that that massive sword that seems to have special powers in it is going to play a role, as well as Pyrrha, because when Weiss used that glyph to protect Jaune and Pyrrha, I would bet that it wasn't Jaune that she was protecting, it was Pyrrha, because she had zero remorse blowing Nora and Ren away. They really don't mean that much to Weiss, but they still symbolize the same as what I would figure Jaune would symbolize to Weiss, being Weiss's memories at Beacon Academy. But the fact that Weiss was still able to know Jaune's name, that she still remembered him as an individual, not just as a representative of the time that she spent at Beacon, things are getting a little bit confusing here, and again, I do have faith that things will be explained later on in Ice Queendom, but for now, things are really getting exciting. I can't wait to see a massive battle unfold, and especially as Pyrrha is going to use whatever abilities and powers she has within this dream world, because I think there is just no chance that she's not going to be the most powerful fighter in this dream. She just needs a weapon to do so, and I think this sword is going to be the key to that. Pyrrha is definitely going to play a prominent role. Likely going to be the one to take out Big Nicholas, but I think there's going to be more to it than that. From the reactions that we saw from Pyrrha this episode, that she was kind of surprised as Jaune handed over the relic. I really don't think it's meant to be for Jaune to use, but there's something else with it. Pyrrha is meant to symbolize something else in Weiss's dream, is meant to have some other information, is supposed to know something, be representative of something that we will see later on. She has not spoken a word yet inside the dream outside of singing Mirror, Mirror. She is someone that is very representative of Weiss, or at least Weiss sees a lot of herself in. Hence the outfit, hence singing Mirror, Mirror, and, being a representation of Weiss's emotions. Pyrrha is going to play a very prominent role in this moving forward, I would imagine. I hope she does, because we all want to see more of Pyrrha, I'm sure, and we'll have to wait and see what happens later on. I have a feeling this yellow relic is going to be useful for a short time, and then going to be destroyed similar to the red one. Then they're going to need to find the black or possibly purple one to represent Blake, that is probably going to be in the outskirts of the city where the initial sign was, because Blake was on the outside of the city. The sign seems to be signifying where each of these relics are hidden, and I think that there is going to be one, like literally right at the beginning. To move forward, they must go back, something of that nature. And then most likely they will be able to free Weiss from this nightmare, because really, I think there's no going back at this point. Now that they've freed everything that Weiss was protecting from the Silly's jail and allowed it to be corrupted by the nightmare, yeah, they kind of have to win at this point. But still, best part of the episode, definitely Tiny Weiss, having the small little child, seeing her when she still had her childhood innocence. She's absolutely adorable, needs to be protected, and hopefully, if there's any more Ice Queendom merch that's going to be announced, maybe we'll get some merch of Tiny Weiss as well. We'll have to wait and see. But in the meantime, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on the events of this episode. What do you think about Jaune having a more prominent role, and especially the fact that he appeared in the dream with not only a cape, but this massive sword on his back? Do you think that it's likely going to be used by Pyrrha, that it is significant to her more than Jaune? And what powers do you think this sword is going to hold? I think that Pyrrha is going to use it to take out the big Nicholas, the Colossal Titan that's in the center of town, but maybe you guys have some other ideas. And where do you think the fourth relic is going to be? The one symbolizing Blake. Do you think it's very likely that it's going to be back at the beginning where the initial sign was? Because every time they enter that dream, they're showing that sign for a reason, and I think it's because the relic that they need is right there, the key to Weiss's heart. But let me know what you all think. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did want to see more like it, make sure to subscribe and join the Guild of the Eternal Flame. Tweet me at PhoenixKnight7, and I'll see you guys in the next video.